Hello YouTube, this is Adam Noyes of AN Productions, and joining me for this special episode of Ishiro Honda-thon is the one, the only Super DM64, aka Dylan McCandless. Say hi, Dylan.
Hi, Dylan.
I guess you would make some comment along those lines.
Indeed.
Okay, well, what movie are we going to talk today about today from Ishiro Honda's lineup of sci-fi fantasy epics, Dylan?
Well, if there's one movie that I've been meaning to see for a long time and never got around to, but finally picked up a DVD of at G-Fest, that's a very specific setup to this, it is The Mysterians, which is, of course, the first of two movies to feature the robot Mogura, or Mogura, however you want to pronounce it.
Mogera.
Mogera. And I've always heard good things about the movies. You know, with being a fan of these Japanese films, it can sometimes be hard to get around to seeing things as quickly as you would like. But I finally witnessed it, and now we are here to talk about it. And this is, Adam, you said you've seen this, what, like 3 times?
Yeah, this is my third viewing. I had bought the trilogy pack. I'm looking at it right now. I bought the Toho, the 3 movies pack from Tokyo Shock, before they went out of business. And that had the Mysterians, Varan the Unbelievable, and Matango, Attack of the Mushroom People, on it.
Yeah,
It's a 3-disc set.
I almost bought that off of Amazon recently, or before G-Fest, but it was...
I love that collection pack. That is definitely my favorite collection pack ever released for Toho Tokusatsu movies.
The only problem is, like, as with all the Tokyo Shock stuff, it's out of print and very expensive.
Yes, exactly. The fact, again, that I bought the ones for, like, Atragon and everything for only $30 each was shocking, because normally they go for anywhere from $100 to $200.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a great find. I wish I had bought more.
Yeah, these are by far some of the best DVDs I've seen put out there. My only problem is that sometimes they get the aspect ratio wrong. The Mysterians is one of those movies that they didn't. But like Atragon, it's clearly letterboxed. They got the wrong aspect ratio. Matango Attack of the Mushroom People definitely has that problem. But that is my only complaint with the DVDs. And a part of me is like okay with it because it's part of the Showa charm. But
yeah.
that's just my poor excuse for the matter.
You don't necessarily always expect the best when you buy one of these tokusatsu films, though it's a little bit easier to excuse things of that nature.
It is. Even though sometimes it annoys me, like the one from Matango is so bad.
Oh, is
the
it?
letterboxing is so bad. But I deal with it because the movie is really good. And considering the fact that the status of the movies, especially the Mysterians, were given and the restorations they went through, the prints are pretty decent. Especially for the Mysterians, and it's no shock that the Mysterians was, so it's very grainy. I mean, a lot of Ishiro Honda movies are grainy anyways, just because of the coloring and the poor, conditions the films were kept in. But the Mysterians specifically, because not only was this Toho's truly, a lot of people think it was, Hidden Fortress by Akira Kurosawa. No, it was really the Mysterians that was Toho's first huge motion picture that was to be shot in a widescreen aspect ratio and in color. They had made Rodan previously, which was in color, and that was a huge step forward. Not only in color, but during the day. And so then they made this, which, a lot of people credit Akira Kurosawa for making the movies, or making the widescreen aspect ratio common in Japan. No, I think Ishiro Honda for this movie, really. And the Mysterians was the first to do it, and it shows in some places. It does that he didn't know how to use a widescreen camera. It shows in a couple of the cinematography scenes.
Yeah. But some of the effects work in here is really impressive. Like I was surprised when I found out that this only came out 3 years after Gojira, because it looks pretty good.
Yeah, this movie was made in 1957, and for me, a lot of the visual effects felt very prototypey, because this was the first time an alien invasion movie was to be done at all in Japan. It was the first kind of movie of this scale tackled by Toho on this level of scale. And a lot of it felt very prototypey, like they didn't quite know. Like, if you listen to the audio commentary, there's an interesting section where Koichi Kawakita went into great detail, because this is Koichi Kawakita's favorite movie of all time, by the way.
Which explains that interesting choice of mech in Space Godzilla.
Yeah, he always wanted to make a remake of this film. He always did. And listening to him and Shinji Higuchi start planning their remake of the movie on the audio commentary is hilarious to listen to. But... you know, it's... Yes, by the way, those are the two people that do the audio commentary on the DVD. It's Shinji Higuchi, who did all the visual effects for the Heisei Gamera series, and Koichi Kawakita, who did all the special effects for the Heisei Godzilla movies. Just let that sink in for a moment.
and Rebirth of Mothra. 1 and 2, I think.
Well, he did 2 of them. He did 2
1
of them,
and 2.
right?
He didn't
Yeah.
get to do the third one. Sadly,
Yeah,
because 2 is... I have bad feelings about 2.
Oh, 2 is so bad. 2 is like one of the worst tokusatsu pieces of shit I've ever seen.
That was the first time watching a tokusatsu movie that I fell asleep and woke up feeling like... And then woke up thinking, I don't really have to go back and watch this. And then it wasn't until I got the Blu-ray that I saw the movie in full.
Let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen. But, you know, it was... anyways, Koichi Kawakita went into great detail on how they didn't know what to make the dome out of. And this is the first time they actually used plastic in a Japanese tokusatsu film.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because that was what they made the dome out of. They made the dome out of plastic because it was such a rare material in Japan at that time.
Right.
Like the tanks were actually made out of a form of steel, believe it or not. And so on and so forth. And, you know, I gotta say, the Japanese never lack for originality, because I picture this film, and I picture that dome. That's like the first thing I think of whenever I think of the Mysterians, is I picture that dome coming out of the ground, that humming noise that it makes whenever it lifts off the ground or when it's just sitting there. Very ominous. And the second thing I think of is Mogura. But I love the design of the dome, because that's where the aliens are in. That's where the Mysterians are hiding. And another thing that I remember about this movie is you can really tell that this is their first color film, because they went all out with the colors, especially with the Mysterians. Did the Mysterians remind you of the original Super Sentai outfits?
A little bit. And then I was also getting some Star Trek vibes because of the color choices.
Yeah, the color choices were pretty close. Were they the same? No, yes, they were. They were the same. You know, yeah, it was inverted, but it was it was pretty close to the same. Because it was cool that they did have a hierarchy, and they clearly showed it. That the Mysterians who wore blue were like the workmen, and then the Mysterians that wore yellow were the people who were above the work people. And then you had the commanders, which wore red or pink, because they call it pink in the audio commentary, but I see red.
I see red as well.
Yeah, they clearly say pink, and I'm like, I don't really see pink. The dome is definitely pink.
Yeah, and
when it's charging its heat ray, the dome is definitely pink, which is interesting.
And I mean, it is a light shade of red, so I guess I can understand why somebody would look at it and think pink, but personally, I see red.
Exactly. And, you know, like, so the dome is pink. The flying saucers are blue and yellow. Very vibrant colors. And another thing that's interesting, and they bring this up in the audio commentary, is that they were very inspired, Eiji Tsuburaya and the art team, Akira Watanabe specifically, were very much so inspired by War of the Worlds, released in 1953. And it clearly shows, especially with some of the laser beams and everything like that, because what's interesting is that you notice that the lasers that shoot out of like Mogura's eyes or out of the dome, it's a white outline with a blue middle, and usually it'd be the other way around. And that was actually a mistake. I found out it was supposed to be the other way around, but during editing they did a mistake and they couldn't go back and fix it, because they didn't have the time or the money to do it, to reshoot the scene, because again they have to draw at the time frame by frame these lasers, And so they just kind of stuck with it. And it was a cool thing because it's nothing like you'd see in another space invasion movie.
Yeah.
And I have to say, again, with all these designs and everything, this is definitely the most colorful space invasion movie I've seen.
Yeah, very bright color choices. Very
Technicolor.
Very
I don't know
vibrant.
if you're aware of Technicolor, but...
Yeah, very vibrant looking.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you mentioned that they had drawn some inspiration from War of the Worlds, because I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but as I was watching the movie, I did sort of get a War of the Worlds feel.
To me, it really came out in the beginning when Mogura first showed up.
Yeah.
That I felt was very in the military trying to stop him. I felt like that was very War of the Worlds very inspired by War of the Worlds, which I love that fucking movie.
I wish we had more Mogura in this. I feel like he's.
Everyone says that. Everyone fucking says that.
I feel like Mogura is a little wasted. I feel like if you had had maybe if you had had multiple Moguras, maybe do a thing similar to War of the Worlds, where instead of the little swan spaceships going around everywhere destroying everything, you have Moguras just,
That would be kind of awesome.
It's just, I've always known this movie as someone who didn't know a whole lot about it. I've always known it as the movie that Mogura's from, and then watching it, he has very little role in it.
That's another thing with this movie too. There isn't much of a build-up for these aliens. They're just fucking there. And suddenly you have like forests catching on fire, you have strange disappearances all over the place, you see people seeing flying saucers, like, what the fuck's going on? This is all in the first 9 minutes of the movie, and then Mogura shows up.
And the freaking military in that first Mogura attack are trying to take him down with all these different weapons, and you just see these idiots on the ground using flamethrowers. I'm like, how on earth do you think you're going to take down
I'm like, how
robot?
how on God's earth are you going to take out a robot with the flamethrower? It looks gorgeous. Don't get me wrong.
Beautiful.
But how are you going to do it? That was so fucking cool. Because unlike in Godzilla, it's common knowledge now that when they made Godzilla, all those scenes with the military in it were either stock footage or Ishiro Honda and the second unit crew going out with cameras and just filming a drill. Mm-hmm. They didn't have any cooperation with the military. However, with this movie, not only did they have cooperation from a lot of military academies, they actually had full cooperation from the JSDF.
Oh, really?
With the making of this movie, which explains why there's so many live-action military shit going on in this movie. Because, normally it'd be done in miniatures like it was in Gojira, like it was done in Mothra vs. Godzilla, so on and so forth. This movie has a lot of scenes where there are actual tanks firing, where there's actual tanks getting set up.
This actually feels like more of a war between the humans and the aliens than even War of the Worlds did.
It did. Like, for example, when Mogura first shows up, you have all of those. It later became famous because it was reused in the 70s as stock footage. Mm-hmm. But whatever. You have that scene where all the men are lined up on the side of the mountain, and they're all running to get in positions, getting off the trucks and running to the position. You got hundreds of troops there. They had full cooperation. Ishiro Honda had full cooperation with these people. Them, setting up in front of the bridge before they blow it up, them firing machine guns. Those were all really there. Those were all real army guys. And that is so cool because I believe this is the only true movie that they really worked on that they had such cooperation with the Japanese military. And I'm wondering why. Because the military does shit in this movie.
Yeah, I wonder why they
why they picked this one, because they're like, oh, it's in color. It's in widescreen.
Maybe they just really liked Gojira and Rodan and they wanted to pitch it.
Maybe. I highly doubt that, but whatever. But yeah, they had full cooperation with that.
I don't think I've ever heard of anything like that really happening on another one of these movies.
Except for Reptilicus.
And
we all know how well that worked out.
Oh yes, of course, the beauty that is Reptilicus.
That beautiful movie.
Cinematic treasure.
Anyways, it's there's just a shit ton of visual effects in this movie. Some of them work, some of them don't. Like, you can tell that they were really... This is the first movie where they were really experimenting with true blue screen. Mm-hmm. And I could tell that because there's a scene where a tank, like, bonsai charges the dome.
Yeah.
And suddenly it cuts to, like, these guys actually on the tank and the tank firing, right? And the blue screen just completely eats the smoke. and I'm like, oh, I'm cringing because I'm like, oh my god, that looks like my first attempts at green screen on Adobe After Effects. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, that wasn't great. It kind of reminds me of those terrible blue screen moments in Gorgo,
Oh god, yeah. Yeah.
But a lot of the effects in this movie do work, and I think.
Well, the one that stuck out to me for it working the most was when suddenly that same tank gets swallowed up in like a whirlpool
Yeah.
of the earth, and then all of a sudden it cuts to the actual tank spinning around on a set, and the guy about to jump out, and then all of a sudden it cuts to the miniature, and they have a guy jumping out.
Yeah.
And you hear him scream. And I was like, that's not only cool, but that's actually kind of frightening.
I'm really glad that they made the color choices that they did, though, that we were talking about, because even when the effects don't quite hit, the movie is always pretty to look at, because it's so vibrant and it's so
yeah.
Well, there was another word I was looking for, but I've lost it.
Well, the aesthetics of the movie is amazing overall. I think the art direction in this movie is really good, especially the Markolite farps.
Yeah.
Those fucking prototypes of the maser cannons that fucking float down from the sky.
Yeah.
I'm like, hell to the fucking yeah. And what was cool was I thought that the beam that was fired by the farps was actually drawn on. It wasn't. Ishiro Honda actually did those, and what he did was he saw a can of CO2 shot underwater and liked the design, and he actually shot that, and that's what Eiichi Tsuburaya and the composite team put for the laser cannons.
Oh.
Or for those. I was like, oh, that's cool.
That is cool. Those look great. Design wise, I mean, they're giant satellite dishes, but
Design, I don't care. I have a huge fetish for satellites, so I'm like, oh, now they're shooting cannons. Oh my god, this is amazing.
I was like, my god, I have one of these on my back porch. I should be like.
I should be converting this into a Markolite farp.
Exactly. I should be like incinerating my enemies. But that would require work.
This is really the first tokusatsu film of this nature to really kind of have those elaborate set designs. You know what I'm talking about, like the Showa era sets where there's a bunch of blinking lights.
Oh yeah, you go inside the dome and it's
ape shit insane.
it's all there.
Nuts.
It
makes
60s,
it's
like 60s sci-fi lover's dream in there.
It's like you walk in there and it's like I know all this shit does nothing. It can't possibly do anything, but it looks so cool.
Yeah. Like, what is that thing in the background? I want to know more about you, thing.
Yeah, and it's just good. The entire design of the dome and the underground base in general just strikes me as awesome.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. The only thing that I didn't like about the design of this movie is that clearly the fucking pistols that the Mysterians have are like blow dryers. They look they look like blow dryers, and I'm not kidding. When they shoot the guy, it's like and it like takes like a million rounds to blow something up. I'm like, these have to be the weakest laser pistols I have ever seen. And I look at that, and every time I see it, I just laugh. I just laugh hysterically because it's just what it is it's just a frame-for-frame drawn-on cartoon almost of a laser beam coming out of it in spurts. Like the photon torpedoes in Star Trek TOS look better than that.
Yeah, those were ridiculous, especially considering that this is the same alien race that builds these giant fucking Mogura
robe. Yeah, that the Moguras apparently like dug the tunnels for them. That's what it's hinted at. Yeah, but then Mogura shows up and fucks all the shit up. And there is this one shot that always stuck out to me, like, when I first watched it. I was like, oh my god, that is so cool. And it's the one where the girl is taking a bath, and she looks out the window, and you just see Mogura walking in the distance.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that is so fucking cool. Because that was all there. They just used forced perspective. And I was like, from a cinematography point of view, I'm like, it's fucking genius from an establishing point of view, that's fucking genius. The shot just works, and I enjoyed that immensely. And the movie's just chock full of that. The entire destruction scene, I believe, with Mogura is really good. Even the pointless flamethrowers, I think, add to the scene because it just looks so glorious in not only in color, but in just the widescreen scope of the movie.
Yeah, I've never really been a fan of the Showa Mogura design. Having never seen the movie before, and having only been familiar with the Heisei version of Mogura, but just seeing images of it online, I always thought it was, I don't know, it just never really hit me. But it does work in the movie. Especially,
well, it does, especially with the outlandish designs of the aliens.
Yeah, so it kind of fits into the same mold, and then that attack scene that's shot at night, and it actually looks pretty damn menacing.
Interesting bit of trivia. I also believe that the guy who played the Mysterian leader there, the guy who wore red, also played the Exilian leader and Shindo in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
He liked to play aliens.
Yeah.
He did. He always liked playing aliens. I believe it's him. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what the people on the audio commentary said he was, so I'm gonna base my fact off of them.
Which the cast in this movie is fantastic.
Well, yeah, you got Takashi Shimura.
Yeah, I was so surprised.
You have the general from Mothra vs. Godzilla, which that general is fucking awesome. Every time I see him in a movie, I'm like, he's the perfect militarist. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah. You got Kenji Sahara. You got Akihiko Harada. They're all here. I was so surprised to see Takashi Shimura also. I had no idea that he was going to be in this movie.
Yeah, he was in this movie. Momoko Kochi is in this movie, though. Let me tell you what. The entire female ensemble in this movie is the most pathetic damsel in distress shit I have seen in a sci-fi alien invasion movie. They are so bad.
And they don't really do anything.
Like, my favorite, the audio commentary even pulls it out, because all of a sudden you hear Koichi Kawakita start laughing, and when the Mysterians take her, we'll get into why a little later, but when the Mysterians take Momoko Kochi and the two women there, he laughs and he says, "Women often fainted back then." And I'm like, yeah, they don't even attempt to put on a fight. They don't. They don't even attempt. They just stand there, right? As the Mysterian walks slowly towards them, and then they faint in the Mysterian's arms. I'm like, oh my fucking god. It's a miracle that we have evolved cinematically from the 1800s.
Right.
And another thing is funny too is that the shot where the Mysterian has the women and they're flying up towards the ship, where they're boarding the ship. I don't know if you noticed those shots or not.
Yeah.
Where it's like they're lifting up off the ground and going in. If you notice it, they're taller than the actual ship.
Oh.
And I'm like, their heads should be poking out the top of that model, but they're not.
I didn't notice that, no. That's
so I was thinking like some TARDIS bullshit, where it's like the inside is way bigger. And I'm like, this is the Mysterians. I'll totally fucking buy it.
The Mysterians are Time Lords. I'll buy that.
I'll totally buy that.
Yeah, the women in this movie are so useless.
They're so fucking useless, which is so unlike Ishiro Honda, because in a lot of Ishiro Honda movies, actually in a lot of tokusatsu movies in general, females usually have a pretty big role.
Oh yeah.
Or at least the ones that stand out. I mean, the original Godzilla, she is the one that ultimately makes the decision to reveal the secret of the Oxygen Destroyer that saves everyone's lives, except for Serizawa's, unfortunately.
I mean, look at another tokusatsu movie that we reviewed together, Daimajin, where the prince in that movie is fucking useless, and then his sister is the one who's...
His sister's fucking, doing everything.
He fucking summons Daimajin, and then he goes and takes care of business.
Because Daimajin will always take care of business, and Daimajin is love, Daimajin is life.
Amen, yes.
Except when he's pissed off. And, the women in this movie are so goddamn useless. And, come to think of it, we might as well... I mean, what's the plot of this movie? The plot of this movie is actually really interesting. It actually is. And that is, Japan has been not so much invaded, but landed upon by a bunch of desperate aliens from a planet called Mysterioid.
Yes.
I hate that name.
They don't even so much land as they do like come up from the ground. Apparently they've been down there for some time and we just didn't know.
Which I'm like, was Steven Spielberg inspired by that for War of the Worlds? For his remake of War of the Worlds? I don't know. Was this like some vicious circle?
That would be interesting if the War
of
the Worlds...
the Mysterians was inspired by War of the Worlds, and then the remake to War of the Worlds was inspired by the Mysterians. I don't know.
That would be some interesting circular shit going on there.
Yeah. That's actually scary. I should stop thinking of that. And
that's kind of like how King Kong played part of the inspiration for Godzilla, and then Godzilla started this whole suit acting tradition that was then used in the remake of King Kong.
Yeah. But anyways, back to the plot. So these aliens land. They then all of a sudden release a robot named Mogera onto the people, and the people are like, ah, shit! What the fuck is this? And so they kill it. They ultimately kill it by blowing up a bridge, and it's kind of awesome.
Mogera fucks their shit up for like 10 minutes, and they realize, wait, this is a terribly designed robot. All we have to do is trip it. So they blow up a bridge, and he falls down, and then he's like, help, I've fallen, and I can't get up.
Yeah. He pulled a help, I'm fallen, and I can't get up. He's kind of a damsel in distress that way. Anyways, and so it's discovered that these aliens, through the help of science...
Yes.
Fuck that movie. Whatever. I'll get into that a little later too. But the aliens have come to Earth and have requested a stretch of land only it was either 2 or 7 miles in radius for their base, and want permission to marry our women. Which at first I'm like, sure. If you didn't fucking attack us with a giant robot first.
Yeah, that is not how...
fucking ask. That's not how you say hello. Granted, it is explained in the movie that
not how you open diplomatic relations with another people.
Granted, it is explained that the Mysterians were afraid that no matter what they did, we were going to attack them. So they attacked first to show their might.
They might have been right about that. For Klaatu, he just showed up to say hi, and we shot him.
All right. Oh, yeah. Maybe this take place in the same continuity.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. But it's eventually revealed that what happened is that we got a mixture of Nazi Germany thing going on here and a terrible prediction of Earth's future going on with these aliens. Where it's like they blew themselves up in a nuclear war, right? This destroyed their home. But on top of that, they were also like genetic freaks. Because if you had any abnormality in you whatsoever, you were discarded. You were eliminated from the gene pool. Mm-hmm. So they've kind of inbred themselves into a corner.
Not only that, but their genetic makeup has been altered by all the nuclear war.
Right. And because of that, they're like, we need more genes in our gene pool. And so they say, can we fuck some of your women? And, at first I'm like, that's not... If you just asked...
Yeah. Listen. I find that roses or a box of chocolates works much better for that purpose than a giant robot.
Than a giant fucking robot destroying a whole city.
If you want to fuck a girl, stepping on her house is probably not the way.
Not the way to do it. Right.
The other thing is,
unless you're Bill Cosby.
Unless you're Bill, yeah. I mean, let's ignore the fact, obviously, that this is a stupid plan because their DNA would be different from ours, and we wouldn't be able to mate with them because they're aliens.
Well, I don't know, because we get to fuck Klingons, and we get to fuck Ferengi, and we don't get to fuck Ferengi. We get to fuck Romulans and Vulcans and Star Trek, and we can have babies. True.
But in the Star Trek universe, it's explained that all those humanoid races have a common ancestry.
Now, assuming this all takes place in the same continuity, no.
Assuming that this is actually first contact.
First contact.
And that the Vulcans are just like high on themselves. Saying that they were the first.
Oh, God. But, I actually bought the whole mating thingy, because I'm like, well, it could work. And they're technologically advanced. I think they know the difference. Maybe.
I'm sure that through the magic of science, they can mate with our women.
Right. No, this isn't like the aliens in Battle in Outer Space. Have you seen Battle in Outer Space?
No, and it's funny because I have it. I have that fucking Toho collection pack that has Mothra in that and H-Man, but I haven't watched that yet. I need to now that I've seen the Mysterians, because I know that they're not really connected, but kind of like it's a weird.
They're kind of similar, yeah. They are. They kind of feel like sequels, even though they're not. You see, this isn't like Battle in Outer Space, where the aliens in Battle in Outer Space are just fucking stupid. Like, they're just fucking stupid. Here, the aliens aren't stupid as much as they are just wrong. It's like, well, let's make first contact. Release the robots.
Yeah.
Release Mogera.
You don't go all Laurence Olivier when you're making first contact. You gotta come down and very calmly say, "Hey, how's it going? Can we put up a base here?" And then we'd be like, "Fuck no!" And then you attack with the robot.
These aliens are dicks. The Mysterians are fucking dicks, and I love it how they go up there when the dome first appears, and they're like, "We need to speak to these scientists." And only these scientists, because, scientists are the best diplomats, which they're not, by the way.
No.
And anyway, so these scientists go in, and I love how just easily the scientists buy, like, yeah, okay, I'll go into this spaceship.
Sure.
Because then all of a sudden, like, please wear a cape, it's cold inside. And so they just put on the capes and just walk in. No guards, no nothing. And I'm like, are you fucking retarded? These fucking aliens just destroyed a goddamn city.
We all like to wear capes here because all of our cultural advancement has gone into the sciences and not the fashion.
Yeah. Oh, God. And so they sit down, and they don't even... They talk about how science is awesome and science is cool, but yet at the same time, the message of this movie is science can be bad. And so, on top of that, this is one of my issues with the movie, is that they never go into details what this science is.
Yeah.
They just say, in the majesty of science and the universe.
The Mysterians' attitude is, we are better than you because we have more science.
Because we have more science. And you're not exaggerating the quote that much.
No. They have a greater amount of science than we do. As if science is some resource that you can dig out of the ground like you're playing fucking Minecraft. That's
how they approach science in general. Like when they introduced the Markolite FARPs, they're like, this is a great day in the name of science. I'm like, what the fuck did science have to do with this? It's fucking...
This means actual advances in the field of science.
That's how the dialogue is in this movie, Dylan.
It is.
And I'm like, oh, like that just drove me up the wall. I'm like, going to why? Like, that's one thing Battle in Outer Space has way above this movie, is that the technobabble in that film is fucking gorgeous. Like,
it's not just, we will use our science ray to out-science their science.
That's pretty much what it is. It's, we will out-science your science in the most sciencey way that science can offer. And, that's the kind of mentality that this movie has. While in Battle in Outer Space, again, Battle in Outer Space is more treated like a documentary anyways. But they were like, this is what the science is. The science is connecting the photon plasma with the antimatter chamber. And they go into like this all crazy mumbo jumbo that clearly makes no goddamn sense at all, but whatever. They act like they buy it, so I'm going to buy it too. And, I'd rather have that kind of dialogue than I will beat you with science in the name of science for science.
Yeah, science.
And that theme of world... This is also Ishiro Honda's first real attempt to get into the realm of world peace, which was a very big theme throughout all of his sci-fi epics.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of expand to that point if you take, like, the message at the end of Gojira, like, we need to stop fighting and creating these monsters.
Well, this is the first time he ever depicted, like, Earth actually coming together to fight a foe.
Yeah, like, you could take, like, that message and sort of expand it to mean these things, but this is the first time he comes out and says, hey, world peace, let's do that.
Yeah, peace, man. But, and again, this is another thing I think Battle in Outer Space has above the Mysterians. In Battle in Outer Space, the entire world is fucking threatened. Mm-hmm. Alright? Well, in the Mysterians, yeah, it's explained that even the Mysterians were going to eventually betray this contract that they had, or that they wanted to make, that they were going to expand they were eventually going to turn the entire island of Japan into their base, and then conquer the world for themselves. But here it feels more of, this is Japan's problem.
Yeah, because
not the world's problem. Because they're not really threatening the world yet. They would if the film continued.
They don't do anything to the rest of the world in this movie. Like,
no, they just landed Japan. They're like, yo, man, can I have like 2 miles of your land, man? And can we fuck your women?
Why didn't they build more shit, is my question. They have 1 dome and 2 Mogueras, and other than that, it's hair dryers. Like, why didn't they... They're always boasting about how much more science they have.
They had that space station orbiting Earth, and that's where all the... It was like
the floating roulette wheel of doom.
Which is funny, because that also appears in Battle in Outer Space, and it's a human satellite that blows up at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. But, it's... that is explained to be like their aircraft carrier. The Mysterians, his aircraft carrier. Because that's where all the UFOs come from. And, why don't you just aerial attack everything? You clearly laid waste to the Air Force in the first battle sequences. Why don't you just do the fucking same thing over again? I mean, they outgun us, they outman us. It's like, what the fuck can we do? But, that aside, at least the premise of this movie, the aliens are more interesting and thought-provoking than the ones from Battle in Outer Space. And the only reason why I'm saying this is because these movies get compared a lot anyways.
Well, I mean, that whole motive of theirs about, their genetic structure deteriorating and needing to mate with other species to maintain themselves, it's all very interesting.
Yes, yeah.
Just...
it's just there's some holes. That's exactly what there is. There's some holes in here, and there's some stupidity we got to sit through.
Yeah.
Where we just got to kind of like close our eyes and hear and see no evil with that stupidity, and then we'll get to the action, and it's fucking awesome.
They needed a better game plan for invading the Earth. Is ultimately what it comes down to.
It's explained that the dome was going to be a huge station, and it was never completed.
Mm-hmm.
That's what is that they were still completing the base. So maybe that could have been why, they didn't have as many forces as usual, or something like that. They just weren't quite ready yet. Because I don't think... I honestly don't think... The way how they act, it's like they didn't plan for Mogera to come out of the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he just accidentally took a wrong turn at Albuquerque.
Yeah.
And he just like steps out, and suddenly the Mysterians are like, shit! Attack!
And I guess our presence has now been revealed.
Oh, man. Wah, wah, wah.
Maybe we won't even have to try the whole peace thing. Maybe we can just take their women. All right. Attack.
Rape. No. But, that's that's some problems. And, the other thing, too, that kind of bugs me about this movie is that the opening sets it up like it's going to be a very character-driven story. Because you have, like, all this background of, like, oh, he divorced, or he refuses to marry his wife, and she really wants to marry him, and now there's, like, a tiny, family fight going on and everything. And then they completely drop all that side story shit.
Yeah, it's like...
Which I'm okay with that.
They're like,
if they made the characters a little more interesting.
We're going to set up these characters, but then we're going to not do anything with it, because, there's alien shit happening, and that's more interesting.
Yes, and it is, but you don't set up all this stuff, and in a movie that's trying to be character driven and not plot driven, and this is what happens, and unfortunately they fail at that. At least in Battle in Outer Space, they knew they were making a documentary, mockumentary, plot driven movie, so they didn't care about character bullshit.
Yeah,
they just said plot.
The question becomes, why would you introduce this stuff if you're just going to drop it? You can just make your movie without it.
Right, and granted, like, all the characters in this movie to me are forgettable. I mean, the only reason why you remember them is because of who plays them, really.
Yeah.
Again, you said Kenji Sahara, Takashi Shimura, who loved playing in these movies, by the way. All these actually A-grade actors at the time. And so, as the movie progresses, you lose interest in the humans and you just want to see shit blow up.
Yeah.
You start, that's that, and, that would be one thing if that was the intent of the movie, where there weren't supposed to be really any human characters, it's just supposed to be a mockumentary, but it wasn't. That's not how they sold the movie, that's not how the movie was presented in the beginning, that's not what they were trying to do. Like the friendship between Kenji Sahara, Takashi Shimura, and Akihito Hirata. And
then the problem becomes that there's so much exposition. Because you've come into a point where all you want to see is shit blow up, and you have the Mogura stuff at the beginning, and you have the dome coming up, and then there's all kinds of exposition. Science, and we're gonna science.
Yeah, it would be one thing. The exposition isn't very good. That's the thing with this movie is it's like it's just, as you said, science in the name of science for science with science.
And And then you get until you get to the end of the movie, where there's the battle at the end. It can at points be kind of a slog to get through all of this, the middle
It
stuff.
is. There are times that the movie is a little sluggish. I felt like the movie felt a little sluggish, especially during the scenes with like the UN, during the UN sequences. It's like we already know this shit, but they're just saying it over again.
Yeah.
And there is one line though that I really like, and that's when Akihiko Hirata shows up on the television, and he's like, "Who will rule the Earth? The humans or the Mysterians?" And then the screen goes blank, and then that American is like, "There's no other way out. We must defend ourselves." I love that fucking line. I don't care what anyone says. I love that moment. I'm like, fuck yeah. Let's blow up some alien ass. And that's what we do.
Yeah, as a planet, we specialize in blowing things up. So.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We also specialize in genocide. But
yes.
Yeah.
Two things which came in handy on this occasion.
On this occasion. But, the only character that tried to be interesting was Akihiko Hirata's character. And he was kind of brushed off, and then all of a sudden they bring him back at the last second. Like, oh yeah, he's here.
He's like with the Mysterians, and at the end he's like not.
Yeah, because he joins the Mysterians because he's sick of humanity's bullshit of blowing each other up, and they're like, the Mysterians have so much science. And so he goes there. And then all of a sudden he realizes the Mysterians are fucking evil, and then he betrays the Mysterians and helps the women escape.
My God, it's evil science.
It's yes, exactly. And then he has like this monologue at the ending that is so fucking in your face, like punching you in the message that fucking science can suck, but it's fucking awesome. Where he goes, "Don't use science to be bad.
Use your science for good."
And I'm like, oh, like facepalm how bad that is.
Don't be like me and turn to the dark side of the science. You must. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole message.
That's the whole message of the movie. And
well, the idea is we have to be more careful with science because we might end up like Mysterians.
Yes, and it's very beaten down your fucking throat. It's
like, I get what they're trying to say. They could have said it a little less often.
Well, yeah, well, like, it's like, here's the thing, it's like, it's not like, we like movies, for example, the original Godzilla, that have this message that is in your face. It is in your face, but here's the thing, it had better writing.
Yeah.
It was better executed than this. That's the complaint with the movie. It's not that the message is bad.
No,
it's a very good message. It's just in a very real one, especially at the time.
It's a good message. It happens to be the one that Toho uses 90% of the time.
90% of the time. But, it's just that it was poorly written. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest problem. Like aesthetically, cinematography-wise, art direction design, everything aesthetically with this movie is gorgeous for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have to agree with that.
I had a couple editing problems with the movie, especially during the action sequences, especially the final action sequence. This drove me up the fucking wall. They'd suddenly play Akira Ifukube's epic music, and then all of a sudden it'd just drop. And then all of a sudden it'd come back, and then it'd drop. And then it would come back, and then it would drop. And I'm like, why don't you just fucking play the whole goddamn thing through the movie? It'd make it more intense with Kenji Zahara sneaking into the base. And they did this on the first action sequence, too. When Mogura falls, suddenly the music just stops. And then there's like this one where they're setting up those freaking flying missile thingies.
Yeah.
That they use that cannot fly at all. There's no fucking way those things would fly whatsoever. But I don't care. They look awesome. You have those things, right? And there's like this epic music playing that's like, yes, we're going to set this up. We're upgrading. We're going to make a laser that's going to fucking laser shit to death. And all of a sudden the music just stops. And I'm like, what happened to the music? Akira Ifukube, it sounds so good. Why did you cut away? Speaking of the music, holy fuck. This movie actually has the score as an isolated track. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yes.
when it's played, it's quite good.
It's fucking awesome. It's dark when it needs to be dark, and then it's rousing when it needs to be rousing. There's almost no sad track in this entire movie. It's just dark and brooding and rousing like there's no tomorrow. Like, the whole music played when the fucking military is going up against the Dome or Mogura is so in your face and so fast and so rapid and so insane. It's just awesome. Like, this is some of Akira Ifukube's best and most well-known work. And it's also interesting to note that this movie was also a huge fucking hit in Japan. Like, a humongous hit.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see the effects of that on their, future movies. Alien invasions became a staple of the Godzilla genre later. I mean, the Godzilla series later on. And I don't think
Godzilla saga. That's mine.
I almost said genre.
That's mine.
I almost said genre as if he's a genre unto his own. No,
he is. Godzilla is a genre on his own. I guess you can say that.
I suppose he is. No, but I don't know if we would have like all these great Godzilla aliens if it wasn't for the success.
If it wasn't for this movie, you're right, and we owe a lot to this movie because of that. And that's why, despite all this movie's flaws, and despite all the problems I have with this movie, I respect this movie like there's no tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, where would we be in this genre? Where would I really be without this movie? Because it influenced so many movies that influenced me earlier down the line. Yeah.
And I mean, not just the Godzilla films, but tokusatsu and genres loaded with aliens, invasion.
Exactly, right. This wasn't the first alien tokusatsu thing, don't get me wrong. No. But this was definitely the most successful one out of the bunch at the time. I mean, this movie was a huge hit.
It is the first time that Toho had done this.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah. I mean, other than a couple of editing problems, like, I felt like the action scenes, some shots lingered too long, and that the music, I hated the music suddenly just dropping. Like, it's hard to explain, but if you watch the movie, you'll understand what I'm talking about. How suddenly the music during the final battle sequence, it'll be, like, really in your face, right? It'll be like, oh my god, this is really intense, and all of a sudden it'll cut to Kenji Sahara sneaking into the Mysterian base, or the Mysterian dome, and it just suddenly drop off.
And I'm like, you could keep playing the music in.
Yeah, it would work fine with the music. It really fucking would. You don't need to just cut away. And it just cuts away.
Yeah.
So I have a problem with that.
The other thing is, in that final battle sequence thingy, as if I didn't think that Mogura was wasted enough in the movie.
Oh my god!
Suddenly there is a second Mogura.
And you're like, yeah! Oh.
And you're like, oh shit, yeah, they're gonna release another Mogura and it's gonna be knocking down Marco-like cannons and there's gonna be all this fighting going on. It's gonna be
all the
awesome.
bibs and the bobs and the boobs.
And the bibbidi bobbidi zabbidi doo. And then fucking one of the cannons falls on it and it's destroyed.
It's just fucking, you just see his head fall off, like get chopped off, and like, oh, that Mogura got pwned.
It's so sad.
It is. It's so sad. Mogura can't get a break.
No, he can't. Even in his first fucking movie.
Even in his first movie, he just gets fucking the shit beat out of him. I'm like, oh, that poor robot.
It's the only suit acting thing in this entire movie, and he
just fucking gets just owned. I do love how you were right about the humans being like, this is a poorly designed robot. If we just knock it over, we could destroy it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they do. They lead it onto a bridge and they blow up the bridge.
It reminds me of in RoboCop, where, the weakness of the Ed 209 is stairs.
Stairs, yeah. And I'm like, why the fuck would you? It's kind of like me with the Daleks. I'm like, put them on an uneven surface and you're fucked. But...
Yeah, well, now they can fly.
Now they can fly, but in the original series, which is the one that I watched, or the older ones, and the movies with Peter Cushing, they couldn't.
Yeah,
so,
well,
like...
in the very first episode they were in, it was kind of explained that their whole city had, like, a track that they would ride around on, so that wasn't really an issue. But then when they show back up, it does become kind of a problem.
Yeah.
And then in New Who, they start flying, and that's, like, a big reveal. In the first time a Dalek shows up in New Who, because they go up a flight of stairs and they're like, oh yeah, you're fucked now, we got away, and then the thing starts fucking floating, and the look of sheer terror on their face is unlike anything I've ever seen. They're like, oh my god, we are fucked.
Oh my god. Well, now that we've gotten on to Doctor Who, have any final thoughts on this movie, Dylan, or anything you want to talk about?
No, I mean, I think we've talked about everything. Is there anything we've left out?
No, because there ain't no characters in this movie to fucking talk about, so...
Yeah. Oh, well, I think the Mysterians' wardrobe could be a little bit more impressive. I mean...
fucking Super Sentai. I don't know how you can get any better than that, personally.
I know, but they're just they all wear capes and motorcycle helmets, and then that's kind of it. I don't know.
But capes and motorcycle helmets. I mean, how can you beat that?
Yeah, I guess. Also, did they have to look human under there? We could have done something neat, give them like blue skin or something. Try a little.
Made them space apes,
Yeah, try a little.
But no, what they look like are basically radiation burned piles of shit, and basically humans. And that was a bit of a letdown, but I didn't really care. I bought it.
Yeah, it's fine. I guess they have to look human for the whole "we're going to mate with your women" thing to seem more plausible.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I think overall this is just it's a really fun movie. It's obviously important to the genre of. You should definitely see it if you haven't, and you're into these sorts of movies. Which if you're not, I don't even know why you're listening to this video.
What the fuck's the matter with you?
Like,
God, stop watching my shit.
Why would you do this to yourself? If you're not a Tokusatsu fan, why are you subscribed to this channel? Like, why are you listening to Ishiro Honda-thon? Why are you doing this?
Why do you do this, internet?
Who sent you?
Where are the drugs hiding?
But anyway, it's a fun little movie, and sure, it's got its problems. It's not among the best of the genre by any means, but it is. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I don't know how it will hold up on repeat viewings.
Like as I said, I loved it the first 2 times I watched it, and this time I was like, meh.
Yeah, and like some of the problems that you pointed out, I hadn't really noticed on this first viewing. So when I watch it again, maybe it'll those things will stick out to me more. But no, I mean it's a great movie.
It's a
thingy.
It's a good movie, yes.
So see it if you haven't, maybe even buy it.
Maybe.
If you're like me and you hadn't yet completed your collection of movies with Mogura in it, then
the greatest of sagas.
Yes, all 2 of them.
Oh God.
One that's decent, one that's shitty.
Really, really shitty.
So no, I don't have anything else to say about it. I guess should I go ahead and rate it?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I'll give it a 3 out of 5. See it.
It's a meh film. It's like it's got a lot of problems, but it has a lot of good action sequences. I'll give it that. Like it's very pretty.
It's got some neat ideas in it. It does have some nice action sequences. It's pretty fun, and the effects are very vibrant and colorful and fun to look at most of the time. So yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with Dylan. It's a meh film. It's got some really great things in it. It's got some really bad things in it, but it's very important to the genre. I'd just be repeating what Dylan said. So I'm gonna give this movie a 2.5 out of 4 stars. I can't believe before this I gave it 4 out of 4. I was like, well, how the fuck? What's the matter with you, Adam? You high?
Maybe the first time you were blown away by all the science.
Science. Anyways, on that note. You have anything to pimp out, Dylan?
No, not at the moment.
Well, I do. Do stay tuned for more episodes of Ishiro Honda-thon. Stay tuned for the next episode of Creature Feature Double Feature Podcast with David Joshua Hernandez. Oh yeah, it's a hilarious episode. And also like my new movie Which Way They Walk on Facebook. We resume production in September, right around the corner. And like AN Productions for more update. And if you wish, join the new group that we have called Geeks for Geeks, which is nothing but us geeking out over stupid shit. And I mean stupid shit. And yeah, it's fucking hilarious. It's the shenanigans that go on in that group already. But anyways, so join us if you wish. And yeah, so joining me was Super DM. Say goodbye, Super DM.
Goodbye, everybody.
And this is Adam Noyes of AN Productions saying, fucking aliens.
Science.